Right, folks, if you're confused about the best rep range for building muscle, today I'm going to break down exactly what rep range works best and why. But first of all, before we get into that, if you are regular to this channel, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for tuning in again. Please do give me a like and drop a comment. And if you are new to the channel, if you've stumbled across here from somewhere else, welcome. I'm Faz. This is Fazlifts. This is my YouTube where I release educational content to do with lifting and all things related to physique and strength. Right, let's get on with this. So today's topic is going to be about recommended rep ranges, what I've seen to work from both my anecdotal experience and also my 11 years of coaching. From what I've seen, if I was to just give you the rundown, the broad range I like, practically speaking, for hypertrophy predominantly is anywhere between 4 to 12 reps. That's what I've seen to be a good working rep range for most things. There are some exceptions where you might go higher, maybe somewhere you go lower, maybe not so much. So that range, I feel, is what gives you the best balance of achieving mechanical tension on the muscle and also being able to progressively overload your lifts over time. Now, there are some use cases for why you might want to go higher in reps, which I'm going to talk about in this video, but for the most part, that's what I've seen and that's what I program for my clients. You're going to be on the lower end for compounds, you're going to be on the higher end for isolation work because they are less cardiovascularly demanding. And again, that's something else we're going to talk about when we talk about the specifics of lower and higher rep ranges. Right, so let's talk about the next thing, when to go heavier and when to go lighter. Right. Now, lower rep ranges. So we're looking at reps of up to 3. Now, make no mistake, you're still going to grow. Okay, you're still going to grow from reps of 1, 2, and 3. But the issue is, it's a practical issue. It's an issue to do with recovery. You're not getting enough reps to substantially grow, but you are inducing quite a lot of fatigue, assuming those sets are, reasonably close to failure, like they're heavy sets. If you're doing singles or doubles, you're probably going to be using above 90 to 95% of your 1 rep max. Doing lots of those can work. Again, not saying they can't, but practically speaking, it becomes an issue of generating a ton of fatigue and time for sets where you could just do 4 or 5 reps at a minimum and get a great number of effective reps. So yeah, lower reps are fine. I do use those on occasion. I think they're great for strength. I think they're great for hybrid approaches. If you want to prioritize strength while getting more jacked, they're great. Big fan of singles. Use them a lot during my career. They're great. Over warm-ups, fantastic. I still do that to this day, even as a bodybuilder. So yeah, great stuff, right? But in my experience for hypertrophy, if you're trying to get the most bang for your buck in terms of sets, in terms of fatigue, managing that, you want to be sticking the lowest end at about 4 or 5. Okay, now the question about higher reps is probably a little bit more nuanced. So why would you go higher than, say, 12 to 15? Right, mostly this is down to joints. Okay, quite a lot of us have joints that don't necessarily cope with heavy work for certain exercises. I've seen side raise type of work, whether it's on a cable or a machine or whatever, doesn't work quite as well in those lower rep ranges, as well as isolation work for the tricep. Those are my 2 probably biggest examples. Oh, I could probably also add on leg isolation work, so leg curls, leg extensions. Not a huge fan of those in the reps range in the range of 4 to 5. But listen, this is personal. Okay, this is personal. There is no scientific physiological reason why you can't go that low with isolation. All I'm saying is, for some of us, when you're looking at lower rep ranges on some isolation type work, that might not work so well. Again, don't get me wrong, I do lower reps for compounds, works very well, but for some isolation work, for some exercises, you may just not want to go down that low. So that's why you would use higher reps. Now, that could be something you do year round. It could be something for more specific cases, like if you have a acute injury which you're trying to work around, you may well stick to high reps. It's fine. It can be part of your rehab protocol, no problem. The issue I find with high reps is twofold though. Okay, the first one is form breakdown. If you're doing high reps, let's say you're doing sets of 20, you're using a duration of set which is potentially 4 or 5 times longer than you normally would. It becomes harder and harder to maintain focus. because you're just working for such a long period of time, relatively speaking to what you normally would be. It's unusual. Also, you're getting more fatigued, you're getting more tired. That can lead to form breakdown. So that's the first thing. Now, that's not as relevant with isolation work, but it can be a problem. But it's very relevant in squats and deadlifts and other compound exercises. I mean, a fashionable thing to do when I was younger was 20 rep squats, which was seen as this magical routine. But looking back, I mean, that was an absolute disaster. Doing 20 reps in probably one of the most challenging compound exercises in existence is just an incredibly stupid idea. But people were doing that, and generally speaking, what was limiting them was their form towards the end, which would break down severely. And also, I would say, the cardiovascular system. You don't want to be limited by your cardiovascular system. You want to be limited by your muscles. So that's another reason why higher reps may not necessarily be so great. And I thought one final one, just pain. Pain. So we've got form breakdown, cardiovascular system, and just pain. Leg extensions are a great example. You try to do sets of 20 on hard leg extensions, it's so painful. So that might limit how far you push. Whereas if you were to do a set of, say, 8 to 12 with maybe a short pause, you're much more likely to fail due to muscular effort than you are due to just pain and burning sensations. So be careful with high reps. Again, it's very much a personal preference thing. You can make them work. Just a few caveats there to bear in mind. So let's talk practical applications to kind of wrap this video up. I would say for the majority of lifters, you probably want to stay in about the 4 to 12 range. So good range. By all means, experiment with some lower reps for some particular use cases. I like over warm-ups. I still do them to this day. And also you may want to experiment those if you are interested in more of a hybrid approach. And occasionally you may want to go higher in reps, just if certain low reps on certain exercises or body parts cause you pain. Nothing wrong with that. Again, remember the bottom line is progressive overload. So if that's you, I totally understand. Don't listen to anyone who says you must do 4 to 8 all the time. That's a little bit militant for my liking when the bottom line is still poundage progression in good form in a good bodybuilding rep range. So you see that the nice thing about my approach is it very much fits logically. I'm not trying to challenge anybody's preconceived beliefs. This is just general bodybuilding law that people have found to work for decades now. Low reps for compounds, high reps for isolation. I mean, I'll be honest with you guys, just take a bit of a segue from the video. A lot of what I do is actually detangling people's brains from the BS they learn online. So as you can see, low reps generally for compounds, high reps generally for isolations makes a lot of sense, and practically speaking, that's what a lot of people gravitate towards. Let's move into the summary. There is a sweet spot for rep ranges, and there are some use cases for going lower. There are some use cases for going higher, but generally speaking, you've got that sweet spot. Stick to that, do the majority of your work there, unless you have a very good reason for going lower or higher. And listen, if it works for you, I'm not going to argue, all right? If it works for you, if it works to add weight to the bar over time, then great. You crack on, because that's all I'm interested in. So if you want more practical training tips like this, subscribe. And if you want a personal program or you want hands-on coaching, check out my links below and get in touch. Let's talk. All right, guys, you have a great day. Take care.